Welcome back. We're here to preview Sunday's Premier League game between Watford and Liverpool. Barnes will start with the home side 6th-7th after that 1-0 win at Sunderland.
Yeah, another good win for them, and they've gone about their business quite quietly, haven't they? Under the radar, a bit sneaking up the table, but that's three consecutive victories now, only 4 points off the top four. Having an incredible season, really, and no one's really taken too much notice of them because they've been winning these games 1-0, 2-0. Ighalo and Deeney obviously in fantastic form after Deeney had a slow start to the season. He's really firing now, both of those two working in tandem just as they were towards the end of the Championship season as well last season. So they're doing very well. Obviously the best of the promoted sides, but I think even people who expected them to do well in the Premier League, no one thought they'd do this well. You would say these three, the three games they've won in a row now have come against the current bottom three in the table, Aston Villa, Norwich and Sunderland, so the opposition hasn't been too tough. They would have gone into each of those matches as favourites, increasingly so, as they would continue to pick up wins because of how well they've done this season. So they'll be interesting to see how they get on against tougher opposition this one, but certainly the way they've gone about their business so far this season has been very good. The win against Sunderland last time out, Ighalo got the early goal, and then they probably should have won by more, to be honest. Ighalo had one cleared off the line when he really should have scored there. It was an absolute city. Good defending to slide back and get it off the line, but Ighalo would be kicking himself how he didn't get that one, and then they hit the post through Gerardo as well. So could have been more at Sunderland, but the most important thing was the 3 points, 3 consecutive victories, closing in on the top four. Be interesting to see how far they can keep on this. Carry on this go, and I think at this stage of the season they'll be eyeing the top half as a realistic goal now.
Yeah, the thing is, there is a lot of teams like that who want to finish in the top half. You've got teams like, say, Stoke and Southampton in the bottom half at the moment who would probably fancy a top half place. But yeah, Watford really impressive, and I think the thing is, what they need to do now is prove themselves against tougher opposition. Like you said, those 3 games they have won, nothing too impressive there really, but you look at their next 4 games coming up here, Liverpool at home here, and then they go to Chelsea, then they host Spurs and Man City. So 3 of the 4 at home, Liverpool, Spurs and Man City, and those are the 3 probably more difficult ones of the 3, and then they go to Chelsea, who we know are really struggling. So it probably falls quite kindly that they welcome the three hardest teams at Vicarage Road, and it's a really excellent chance for them to sort of cement their place in the top half. But the one thing with them is they've never won back-to-back home games in the Premier League, when they've been in before. So it's something that they'll want to put right here. It's going to be very difficult against Liverpool, but like I said, again, Ighalo last week, and those two, they've been just tremendous for them. But the rest of the team, I don't think no one really knows too much about the rest of the team really, because they just steal the headlines every week, Ighalo and Deeney. So if they go cold at any point, or if, say, they get injured, then they're going to need someone else to step up, and that might just be the worry for Flores, that maybe either one of them gets injured, or in January. I mean, Ighalo especially, I think he's been fantastic this season. The way he controls the ball, and he's really good dribbling, great finisher as well. We talked about the likes of Mahrez and Vardy at Leicester with a bit interest in them. I think Ighalo, surely there'll be some inquiries about him in January, because he's been tremendous as well. So it'd be interesting if they can keep him, but if they're still sitting pretty in the top half come January, then there's not much reason to leave, because they're doing fantastically well.
Yeah, and they'll fancy their chance of getting something out of this game against the Liverpool side, who have had a few dodgy results of late. Obviously, there was that defeat to Newcastle no one really expected, and then the home draw against West Brom last time out. It was a strange game in a way. Towards the end, obviously, they were pushing for that equaliser. Got very lucky to get it with Origi's deflected shot. Probably say they deserved a point out of it, but nothing more really. It was another so-so display at home under Klopp, but at the end of the match, obviously Klopp did that thing in front of the Kop, which he used to do at Dortmund. I know you weren't a fan of that, but I think it was quite clever from him, to be honest. I know if you take it in isolation, doing that at the end of a 2-2 draw against West Brom when you would have been expected to win that match, it looks stupid doing it in isolation when you take it in that isolation there. But the way the match panned out, the late equaliser, and I think it was quite, because fans might have otherwise gone away from that game pretty disgruntled, but there was the best atmosphere at Anfield since Klopp's been there. He got the fans right behind the team. I think it was quite clever what he did there. Obviously, it wasn't the best result. It is only a point, but the way they got the point, it would have felt a bit like a victory. Henderson, a big positive, him coming back and getting on the score sheet as well. So there were positives. Still 2 drop points at home. They do need to improve at home. Mignolet's error, of course, again, big questions over him. I think in January there are going to be huge questions over whether Liverpool bring in a goalkeeper. Jack Butland's been linked, and I think personally he would be a fantastic signing for a team like Liverpool. He looks like a star in the making, Jack Butland does, if not a star already. He's been one of the standout goalkeepers of the season this year. So certainly negatives, but certainly positives as well. And I think Klopp, what he did at the end of that game was quite clever to get the fans back on side after what wasn't the best result, but certainly the atmosphere among the fans, it's always good away from home, but at home they need a bit more, and I think that would have helped them give that.
Just from my point of view, if I was a Liverpool supporter and I was there in the home end, I wouldn't feel like really cheering on the team, and they were all there in a line, celebrating with the Kop, and if I just watched my team get a 96-minute deflection, I know they had a lot of chance in that game, and West Brom, just scored 2 goals from set pieces. But if I was there and I'd watch my team, score in the 96th minute through a very fortunate deflection and not beating a team like West Brom at home when Liverpool have had some excellent results under Klopp, especially away from home. I just don't know if I'd really feel like that they deserved the applause they were getting there, and if I would have stayed to clap them really. But that's just my personal view. But I think under Klopp, they go back away from home here to Watford. They've actually in the Premier League this season got the same amount of points at home as away, but under Klopp especially, they've been really good away from home, haven't they? Some of the wins they've had, they went to City, went to Chelsea and won League Cup, go to Southampton, score 6 there. So they have been really, really impressive away from home. The only downside another downside to last week's draw was the injury to Lovren. He's probably out for about a month now, I think. And the only positive maybe about it is that the Sacco could come back and fill in that centre-back gap, because if they're both out for this one, then they are going to be a bit short at the back, and it might be something that, especially when we've talked about Igalo and Deeney coming up against those two, that they might fancy their chances if Liverpool are a bit short-handed at the back.
Yeah, certainly, and I think it's quite important that Liverpool do need to field a strong side to get a good result in this, because it's a difficult match to form. Watford are in, and Liverpool, they're sat down in 9th in the table, which you want to see more from that. Obviously, it is very bunched up in there in the middle. A victory could take you up to 5th or 6th in the table, so 9th perhaps isn't as bad as it looks on paper, but still they need to be up in and around the top 4. They need to stop dropping silly points, and the festive period is going to be key for that. They've got kind enough fixtures. It's not an easy run, it's not a particularly tough run. They've got Leicester coming up on Boxing Day. We know how fantastic Leicester are doing. That's at Anfield, and with Leicester's away form, I think only Arsenal picked up more points on the road than Leicester this season, and Liverpool's home form, that's going to be a really difficult match. But if they can get a rousing performance, a really good victory, which hopefully might get helped by what Klopp did at the end of the West Brom game, the atmosphere should be good for that one, against the Leicester side who are absolutely flying. That is a good chance to improve at Anfield, which they really, really need to do. Klopp did say after the West Brom game that they need performances like they've had, the ones against City, the ones against Chelsea and Southampton. They need them at home to really get the fans behind them. If they can get one of those against top of the table Leicester, it should give them a real good platform to build on in the new year, I think.
Back to this game in Liverpool, they have won 4 in a row at Vicarage Road. Do you see them making it 5 here?
It's a difficult one just because of the form Watford have been in, and they've kept a few clean sheets recently, but what Liverpool on the road, that blip against Newcastle aside, I back them most weeks at the moment. If it was the other way around, I might be less inclined to give Liverpool the win here, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 Liverpool victory, I think.
Yeah, I don't see too many goals this one. I think Watford, the majority of their home games this season tend to have been pretty cagey. There's not been a lot of goals at Vicarage Road this season. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. So, got 1 Liverpool win and a draw. Thanks for joining us.